Say hello to Patrick Howley, who is an investigative reporter and who's in a lot of. Patrick actually broke the story of Ashley Biden's diary. He was also he's working on a piece right now called the Kamala Files. He's broken many stories. He worked for Breitbart, worked for Epic Times. He is a contributor to InfoWars, and we have him on the Do Maker Hotline. Talk a little about the Kamala Files. Patrick, good morning. How are you?
Mike, good to hear from you. Good to be here.
What is the other big story? I know there's another one that you broke. I was reading your bio this morning, and of course, being me, I closed the window and forgot to print it out.
Ralph Northam's blackface photo?
That's it. That's the one. That's right. Governor Blackface.
One of the biggest stories ever in the history of the news business.
Yeah, that was absolutely huge. How did you find that? You just went to the library and got yearbooks?
No, it was an old classmate of his who hated him and had it in for him. So when he said the thing about killing the live-born babies, then the guy, the source wanted to get revenge from the medical school days.
That's a great. That's. I'm glad that he did. And of course, the Ashley Biden diary. Which now, has anyone accused you of being a Russian double agent?
Oh yeah, I think so. Sure.
Because he gets. I mean, you report on the Bidens here. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a book written about how 51 special agents and former intelligence officials have denounced Patrick Howley and his findings. That's an august group to be in, man. I'd consider that a badge of honor, actually.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Kamala Files. What is it that people don't know? Now, let me tell you, I'm going to give you a nugget, then you can give me one. I know someone, and I know her very well, and I just interviewed her, but she didn't want to go with her name public and all that, but she told me. She worked at the California Attorney General's office in Sacramento. And she told me, while the Shape, I call Kamala Harris the Shape, the pure incarnate evil from Halloween, the movie. I said, she goes, I can tell you this, though, Mike. I can tell you this, and you can repeat this. She goes, that was the most miserable workplace I have ever worked in. And it didn't matter if you were a Democrat, Republican, it didn't matter who you were. Everyone in that office despised that woman. And then she said, but for extra credit though, Patrick, she goes, I can't tell you, and I was there for years with her, I can't tell you what, if anything, that woman ever did other than make people miserable. Now, that's from someone that was there. So, can't wait to hear what you have to say about the Shape.
Sure. Well, of course, you have Kamala's famous slogan, how dare we speak Merry Christmas? I don't know if you've seen that clip.
Yes.
Where she was scolding people for saying Merry Christmas. Yeah, at every stage of her life, she's managed to alienate people. She is a high-caste Brahmin Indian lady on one side, and then essentially a white person from Jamaica on the other side, descended from a slave owner named Hamilton Brown. Her father considers himself to be white, from Jamaica. So she's not black, but she went to Howard, right? Because like Obama, she was trying to craft this image of herself as a black woman, starting from a young age for her political career, which of course then led her to become a lady of ill repute. In the newspaper columns in California in the 1990s, she was, the mistress of Willie Brown, and then she ended up dating Montel. So, she's been around, and, it's pretty disturbing. Judge Joe Brown has called this out, how she, slept her way to the top, which really is a terrible, image to set for young women, but then she went on the Call Her Daddy podcast.
Right.
So, just terrible values, and I think America realizes that we can't trust the Lincoln bedroom to this woman. But no, it's bad. It's really terrible. She's a terrible person,
Now, the things that I don't know if you've seen this. There's a guy that's on Twitter that's started off with 75,000. I think it's up to like 100,000 now. $100,000 reward for anyone that can actually find a transcript, a court document transcript from a case that she actually presided over, that she actually argued. You know, she loves to brag that she is a prosecutor. Have you heard this? Any light you could shed on that?
Yeah, well, I can find one. The one that she did take seriously was when she was prosecuting, going against a mother named Tammy Reif, who was the mother of Jonah Reif, who allegedly was put into child sex trafficking by the state. And Kamala Harris and Roy Cooper were called in to represent the state against this mother. So Kamala Harris is involved with the whole CPS, child, endangerment. You realize that CPS agents are mostly involved in human trafficking, especially in California. There's no Amber Alert that goes out when children go missing from foster care. So, as Attorney General of California, she really oversaw everything that was going on in California, which was, the worst child sex trafficking in the country. And, she was the prosecutor in San Francisco when MS-13 gangsters, were being let off. So, I mean, just at every point of her life, she's been horrible for the country. And so it's kind of disturbing that she's the Democrat nominee, but it looks like she's losing in every swing state now. So,
yeah, I fully expect that she is. Patrick Howley is on the Dude Maker hotline here with us. You can find him at patrickreports.com. That's patrickreports.com. There's another case, Maggie. What was the case that you were talking about earlier today, where the truancy case? You heard this one, Patrick? The woman whose daughter was. She was in a hospital. The little girl was in a hospital, and Kamala went after her for truancy, and then found out it was discovered. The woman was like, "She's not truant. She's in the hospital, you dumbass," and but she didn't drop the charges against the woman.
She also, she reached out to the Freemasons for help on the truancy issue. So she had the secret Freemasonic police force was her staffer, Brandon Keel. And the guy, Brandon Keel's father-in-law, died on the same day that the charges against Brandon Keel got dropped for being part of this group that was impersonating police officers, in Los Angeles. So she was, essentially she was involved in all kinds of wiretapping that was going on in California. And just, weaponizing her office. She had the Willie Brown political machine behind her. And she's just been a crook, big government crook her whole life.
Is it your opinion then, maybe, that that's why Biden chose her over all the other Democrats he could have chosen, that she was accomplished at weaponizing law to use against opponents like Donald Trump?
Yeah, I mean, she got in there for a reason. I mean, you remember she was basically calling Joe Biden a rapist during
she did.
the debate.
She did.
Yeah. So obviously, Joe Biden didn't like that, but she has some savvy, and it's mostly due to Doug Emhoff, her husband. Doug Emhoff is a legitimate power player because he was a partner at DLA Piper in Washington, D.C., which is probably the most powerful law firm in Washington, D.C. And so, he is the real brains behind the operation. Are they actually married? I mean, he's the one guy who I could see her never having actually slept with, but that's her husband there. That's the one. That's the power, though. That's the guy. So Kamala, very dim-witted, very stupid. But Doug Emhoff, much savvier. But we don't even know. I mean, it's been said he might not even be heterosexual. So.
Well, we know he has a thing for nannies. I mean,
well, yeah, but she was not a very, attractive nanny either. No offense. I mean, everybody's attractive on the inside, but it was odd. It was odd because you would think in that kind of scenario that the nanny would be more attractive, but that wasn't. wasn't the case.
Oh, okay. Patrick Howley at patrickreports.com, an investigative journalist and reporter here. Patrick, what gets you into this dark arts of investigative journalism? I have to ask.
I don't know. I think, back in the day, it was really the only thing I could do to make money as a college dropout. Back then, the newspapers would pay you just to show up, right? If you could just write an article competently, like it was a real business, it was an actual trade. So I think that's probably why it was financial necessity, and then it was just a lot of fun to expose politicians because they're usually not very bright. It's usually the slower-witted people who become politicians. I think that's a funny part of our American culture.
Like I used to say, and I've been at this since 1992, politicians is TV for ugly people. You could say the same thing for radio, too. Radio is TV for ugly people. All right, I'm just browsing around on your website, so let me just hit a couple of quick hits here. What is the exclusive about Kamala's wiretapping? Other than David Daleiden, who did she wiretap? And she did wiretap David Daleiden, by the way.
Yeah, so there was a judge in Riverside County, California, who authorized, a massive amount of wiretaps, was wiretapping, retired law enforcement and all of these kinds of people, stemming from some kind of investigation involving cartels. But obviously the cartels never get stopped, So Kamala Harris, covered all of that up, tried to lock the electronic, wiretapping report when she was Attorney General. And then there was a group called the Electronic Frontier Foundation. They were on Jeopardy, actually, just the other day. They were like the question or the answer or whatever.
Oh.
But they were the ones who held Kamala Harris accountable and got her to release the report. But then when she released the report, as required by law, they intentionally messed up all of the numbers. So it was incomprehensible. Like, people couldn't read it. So it was basically worthless. And they did that intentionally, allegedly. So Kamala Harris is just dirty. Like, even Willie Brown said that she threatened to prosecute him for jaywalking, or if he ever jaywalked, right? So, we can't let this woman have the nuclear code. She's just a petty tyrant, a mobster. It's just terrible.
Okay, I want to, since you said this, and it's come up twice now, maybe you know about the story, maybe you don't. I dug into it a little bit, but because I see on your site, patrickreports.com, Satanism Exposed in Hollywood, a subject near and dear to our hearts, and we've been talking about this for 8 years here now on the CRUSADE Radio Network and the Mike Church Show. You mentioned Riverside County. There is a woman who is, and I want to say that Michael Schellenberger actually is one of the ones that has covered her story. She is suing the CPS in Riverside County, California for sex trafficking, for trafficking her daughter. And that she was caught because it was a custody case. She kind of lost custody. The husband basically was allowing CPS from Riverside County, California, to come in. And lo and behold, and since you've mentioned Riverside County, California, what can you tell our audience, because they are very much into this subject here for the protection of children? Why does Riverside County, California child sex trafficking keep coming up?
Well, California is the worst kind of CPS, and obviously there are other states like Oregon, Kentucky, where basically, they have junkies, they have, addicts working as social workers. It's very easy to become a social worker. They have people with criminal records, like it's like a DMV job. And so all of these criminals become social workers, and social workers have basically total power. They can seize children. They can, just come by and take the kids. They oftentimes don't even need a judge or a warrant or anything, because CPS has power in all these different states and whatnot, put in place from all these old laws, thinking like, oh, well, CPS, that will be good for society, like there's a police or something. But now it's completely corrupt. And so we're actually a country that is not only importing child sex slaves from Mexico, but actually seizing white, black American kids and exporting them to Mexico through child sex trafficking, because so many kids are getting taken from their homes and put into foster care by CPS. So it's a sickening thing when you look at what this country has been doing since Obama, became president in 2009. It's just despicable. We've had to grow up in a terrible system that never gets fixed. Donald Trump is the only one who can set this country right. So we've got to make sure that he wins every swing state on November 5th.
And you have a piece on your website, My History with President Trump on Why I'm Voting MAGA. Why are you voting MAGA? I think you just told us.
Yeah, I believe that, America needs to stay out of the war in Ukraine. I think that President Trump, did some very underrated things, got rid of NAFTA, prevented us from having a war with North Korea, which is a great accomplishment. I mean, Democrats talk about that like it's a bad thing that he made friends with Kim Jong-un. It was actually like great diplomacy. He was the first American to cross the 38th parallel there, and
right.
It was like historic, right? So that's the kind of leader that we need. Like, could you imagine Kamala Harris doing that level of peacemaking? Trump has done some amazing things already. So I trust him 100%. I just think he's a good man, and it's obvious that he should be the president, not this demonic hoe.
Delmonico, my kind of guy. You interviewed him back in 2012.
That's right. Yeah, I interviewed him at least twice, and I had dinner with him the night before the New Hampshire primary in 2016 in Manchester, New Hampshire, right before he won the primary.
Wow.
In the middle of a blizzard. And with Don Jr. and Melania and Ivanka and who else? Oh, Tucker Carlson.
So Tucker was around back then. This is interesting. We have like 2 minutes left here, but I'm curious because I wrote for the Daily Caller in 2000. I was recruited by Jordan Bloom. I was recruited by Jordan Bloom in 2012 to write for the Daily Caller. I wrote for the Daily Caller a weekly column in 2012, 13, 14, well over 100 pieces there. You can still find them, all the way up until Bloom quit. And then the new editor took over, and he just didn't like me, and he sent me red line pieces back on my piece. I'm like, bro, that's true. That's what it says. Yeah, but we don't. In any event, I had a history with the Daily Caller too. I never got to meet Tucker though. But you worked there. You were writing for the Daily Caller.
Yeah. I was a writer for Tucker for starting when I was 22. So that was mostly what I did. Which was amazing. I think that he's probably the most influential journalist of all time. He was the one who was able to figure out how to make citizen journalism mainstream and really change the world. I mean, from having Bill O'Reilly's time slot, doing those amazing monologues, most of which, by the way, were written by Blake Neff, who worked at the Daily Caller, was the editor of the Dartmouth Review. And then Fox fired him. And then Tucker actually started writing his own monologues mostly after they fired Blake Neff. So Tucker's just an amazing person, and he's next level. So he'd be good president, I think.
Well, maybe someday. I hope Trump might make him communication director. That'd be a great thing. All right, Patrick, we got to run. It's been great to meet you and great to talk with you guys. Follow Patrick on X. You can find him on X.com. Of course, the easiest way to find him is PatrickReports.com. All right, brother. Maybe you can chime in with us on our election coverage on Tuesday, next Tuesday evening. Love to have you. I can send you a message about that. But we're out of time. God bless you, brother. Talk to you soon.
All right, go Trump.
All right, go Trump. I am in concurrence. Folks, that's all we got for this segment. Much more coming next. Don't go away.